right? So we got BlackRock's CEO, right, Larry Fink, that came out and stated that he's very bullish on the market over the next 12 months. And this is, again, BlackRock's one of the highest venture capitalist equity holder asset holders in the world, right? So when someone like Larry Fink speaks, it's something that we should take a look at and pay attention to. So let's listen to what Larry Fink has to say about the stock market over the next 12 months.
The role of financing infrastructure around technology, whether it's financing data centers or financing the purchase of chips. As I said earlier, I think we're going to have markets in investing in compute. We're going to have a futures market in compute. This is going to be the next revolution in finance, and it happens because of the strength of the United States capital markets, having the ability to finance these new technologies, so the United States and other places in the world can be leaders in the new technologies.
You mentioned 50 years, so I am curious. I mean, have you ever seen anything quite like this, Larry? We've got what were the most profitable companies the world has ever seen,
yes,
making a choice to incinerate, wrong word, to decide not to have any free cash flow anymore, to not return capital to shareholders, because they have to be part of this headlong race to make sure they are not left behind in the AI future. When I listen to myself say that, there's some worrisome aspects to that, are there not?
I mean, I've spoken to some of the leaders this week and last week in that sector. Their biggest worry right now, supply is not keeping up with demand. And you see that showing up in the value of the memory stocks. Okay, we have more demand for memory than we have supply. Obviously, they've been able to do big price increases. I don't know how sustainable that is. Maybe in 3-4 years, we'll have enough supply. But, and so what we see as a big investor in data centers, the demand for compute is not slowing down, it's growing faster. The problem we have as a country, we're not investing fast enough. So I have an opposite.
So we're just not even, we need to do even more. I mean, $1 trillion CapEx spent from 6 companies, not enough.
I believe it's, well, not just there. We're not investing in our grids fast enough. We do not have enough adequate supply of power. And that's what is creating some of the issues at certain state levels, that they're worried about electricity prices for the consumer, which is a legitimate issue. But other states that have more power and more capability of delivering power, and delivering power that is not going to raise the price to the consumer, are going to be the big winners for growth.
Yeah.
So in the last quarter, we contracted close to 1 gigawatt of power in Pennsylvania. Okay. We're financing another big data center in another state. And in my conversation with every hyperscaler, demand is exceeding supply.
I got to stop it for a second, right? We got to talk about what he's talking. You got to hear him. And this is an investor. This is a CEO giving you the game, right? Like, he's in real time telling you the bottleneck, right? We have a memory bottleneck, right? And that's why companies like SanDisk, Micron, Samsung, the memory stocks have went crazy over the last 12 months or so. He's also now telling you what the next bottleneck looks like for the market and for the economy and for the CapEx spend for the hyperscalers, right? For the big companies in the United States, which is energy. He just said it. We have a infrastructure energy problem. So similar to memory when it comes to artificial intelligence, we have a energy AI data center concern. So as an investor now, it's the time, and was not part of this live, right? You have to take a look at companies that are going to benefit from the infrastructure AI conversation for data centers and for the grid, for powering this new wave of technology. That is going to be over the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, it's going to be a huge conversation. And the companies that are going to be able to fix that problem or to fill that gap, if it's renewable energy, if it's nuclear energy, if it's cooling of data centers, you have to find that niche when it comes to energy, AI, technology, data centers, etc., and invest your money into those companies now and reap those benefits over the next 5 years or so, right? Because again, it's all about opportunities. It's all about opportunities. And when you listen to what he's saying and you break it down into the details, he's basically telling you, hey, there needs to be more spend, right? Spend meaning CapEx, meaning billions of dollars, also meaning possible government assistance to companies that's going to fix a problem, because this is a AI technology war that we are trying to win in the United States. And it's important for us to understand what those stocks are and do your research and find what those companies look like and invest in those companies.
And yes, you're right. These large companies used to be balance sheet light, and now their business has changed, and that's the role of the capital markets. And I promise you, these are going to be great investments for individuals.
Right. But you've got to know that the underlying business model ultimately that we get to is going to generate enough revenue and profit to be able to pay for all the data centers. They're not cheap.
Yeah, they're $50-60 billion for a 1 gigawatt. What I worry about, Dave, is not the demand side. I worry about, can all of society benefit from AI? Because right now, compute is so expensive. My questions to everybody in the hyperscaler business is not whether they have enough demand, is how quickly can they bring down the cost of compute. I'm not worried about BlackRock paying for the AI, and I think we've been a huge investor in it, and our systematic equity team has really benefited with it, with the flows and the return. But I worry about the small and medium businesses. How are they going to be able to compete in this new AI technology world? So the biggest question I ask behind the scenes is, how quickly can we bring down the cost of compute? And okay, they tell me it's like a Moore's law, and how quickly they can develop faster and faster analytics to have faster compute. But unless we develop better technology and better systems in our grid to provide more power, more consistent power, I believe the United States must be power agnostic. We should not care if it comes from solar or hydrocarbons. We have to be there, but we don't have we need to be manufacturing the solar panels in the United States, building the battery storage. At least we can do the battery storage here.
We do.
So those are my worries.
Yeah.
My worry about is not a bubble. My worry about we don't have the ability to build fast enough. And then I go watch China. China's building 100 gigawatts of nuclear. They're building close to 100 gigawatts of solar. Okay, they are getting set up for this AI revolution and the need for power. We're not doing this enough. And I actually get frightened when I see states saying we're going to do a moratorium. That's not the answer. The answer is, how do we deliver more power quickly? Why don't we all start focusing on how do we deliver more power so we don't raise electricity prices, but we can be the center of the AI revolution.
So he just gave you the game. He said China is building out nuclear, other forms of energy power. He talked about battery storage, cooling of data centers. He just gave you the outlook. He talked about electricity, gigawatts, and who can be able to provide the type of electricity, a lot of the type of gigawatts that's needed to power data centers across the board. That's the investment discussion that we need to have in 26. That's going to then play out in 27, 28, 29, and 30. Right, because this is going to take some time. We got companies like CEG, Constellation Energy. We have companies like GEV. We got companies like VRT and VST. There's a couple more out there, but obviously in NextEra Energy, there's so many different options out there that you can take a look at that possibly can be added to a portfolio to give you some type of, movement into that energy space, it's important that we take a look at this now and get on board as soon as possible. Look at the best players in the space, look at the deals, the partnerships with some of these hyperscalers, look at the investment that these hyperscalers are made in partnerships with some of these companies, and take a look at the energy AI grid play. That is going to be very profitable over the next two to 3 years, without a shadow of a doubt. Similar to what we've seen with Micron, with SanDisk, with Samsung when it comes to memory and AI. The energy infrastructure conversation within this country is going to be so key moving forward.
Can I ask you about leverage? Every morning we come in here, we check the Kospi, which was up 9% swings. The South Korean president said the market there she thinks is quite unstable. A lot of it's leveraged ETFs and two big names.
Which we don't really do.
Right. Do you worry about that, though, as a global risk factor?
No, I really don't worry about. There's not that much leverage in the system compared to 2008, 2009. Now, maybe the Korean market has that embedded leverage in it. There's no question, as I said it in earlier times when I was here, I was always worried about the leverage in Bitcoin and crypto. There was too much leveraged players in it. That's why we had the washout, and I think there's more stability at these levels here. But no, we don't see that much implicit leverage. For the scale of the capital markets today, the leverage is not as large. I mean, that doesn't mean there's not pockets. But no, I, as I said in my prepared remarks this morning, I'm very bullish on the markets over the next 12 months. I think the technological revolution is going to power better margins for more companies. I mean, think about BlackRock. We've raised our margins increased by 260 basis points over the last 12 months. A lot of it is using more and more technology.
Can you keep those margins going? You said you don't see 45 to 46% margins as a ceiling. You pointed back to 2021.
Yeah.
Your business, though, is very different than it was in 21. Yeah. So I'm sort of curious, what's the mechanism that gets you back above 47%?
Continuing driving more growth in our private markets area, which we see incredible momentum. Continue to drive opportunities in retirement, which I believe these are all going to be creating a better margin, and just making sure that we're utilizing technology as fast as we can to do more with less. I mean, our head count, David, is unchanged, and we're up $1 trillion in assets. Okay, that's what you're seeing. We're able to use technology to process more trades, to process more activities. So we're able to do that. We're able to leverage our human capital using technology, working alongside of that. We're using the amount of code we're writing alongside our coders with AI is accelerated dramatically. So we're able to do more and more and more. And as the ability of AI and compute, as I talked about earlier, becomes faster and cheaper, that will drive even higher margins for not just for BlackRock, for other firms.
We have a new school community. It's called Invest with AI, and it's so interesting that he brought this up about how his business is maximizing profits due to the human side of the strategically placing himself and his business around good employees that know what they're doing, but also utilizing technology. He kept repeating himself. We are utilizing technology. We are utilizing technology. We are utilizing technology. And he keeps saying the same thing along with human capital. We are utilizing technology, right? So this community that I started is called Invest in AI. Invest with AI is giving you the game on how you can use technology, right? Tools to help you in your investing journey, right? In the market, research, strategies, simulations, how to put yourself in a position where you can automate your investments. We having a long, real conversations every week about and the stock market, real estate, things like that. And we started this community to basically help people get around, like-minded folks when it comes to the stock market, investing in general, but also to teach and then provide education in the game when it comes to how to use these tools to be more efficient. And I believe over the next generation of wealth builders will be people that are utilizing tools and AI, artificial intelligence, and also technology in general to become more efficient, managing their time better, but also investing their capital better. Right? There's no better way to have an executive assistant that can give you so much information and so much game on how to make decisions. Right? So invest in AI is a school community. Hit the link if you want to join. Definitely tap into the in the description of this video, also pinned to the top of the chat. Tap into the school community as we continue to grow it and continue to build it out.